So Microsoft has this vision. We have this statement which says empower every person and every organization to achieve more. And I think with AI, it's also the same. It's like empowering every organization to actually do business transformation with AI and do it at scale. I mean, so AI is just going to, like, Andrew Ng says very nicely, AI is the new electricity. We also see it very similar. So we provide the platform, that is infrastructure at scale, the best possible models, GPT being one of them, and of course the deployment patterns. And then at the heart of all this, you have to do it responsibly and ethically. So we have a lot of focus on responsible AI. So yeah, so that is Microsoft's vision to provide, AI, Gen AI across every part of business, and not just achieve business transformation, but actually an AI transformation throughout a company to achieve more. So what I'm going to talk about is, what is Microsoft's strategic vision? What are we doing? What are we coming out with? And what kind of products? How are we implementing AI? Because before a customer company, we are also a company who is producing a lot of products, right? So we are embedding this within our products. So that is also something that I would like to talk about. Then, the other thing is we are touching every component, whether with Gen AI, whether it is text, whether it is image, whether it is video, there's Gen AI in everything. So I would like to talk about how Microsoft is doing that. And then I'll follow it up with, a lot of people are very confused because there's so much of Copilot. Copilot has become like a normal word now. There's so many copilots that we are coming out with, actually 20 plus. And it's very difficult to know which one to use where. And then when should you build, when should you buy? So this whole buy versus build, because organizations have a certain budget and certain capacity. So you can't just buy everything and you can't build everything. So it has to be like a balance. And then I will give some insights into what Microsoft is thinking over there. And then I will talk about some real life use cases for finance, for retail, maybe manufacturing. And then I'll close it off by, security and, compliance for AI, because for Gen AI. And that is where I spend a lot of my time, basically, talking with for regulation, for risk, for security, for data protection. And I spend a lot of time discussing these topics. And these topics are very, very important for implementation of Gen AI. That's where it takes actually the longest. So I will also touch upon that. The first thing is, what I talked about is Microsoft is coming and embedding AI into almost all our products, almost all. So we have, so first of all, our product line, whatever was present, that is the, like Microsoft 365 at a customer or SharePoint, whatever, there is going to be a Copilot in each of these. So these are called first party products, meaning you will have an enhanced experience of whatever product you already had as a part of your landscape. And that is one part. And there are 20 plus Copilots there. The second part is this is this clear, buy strategy where you already have a product and you buy like an add-on or you decide what to do, but Microsoft is providing that. The next part which Microsoft is doing is third-party products, meaning we have a huge partner landscape and a lot of partners are building amazing solutions specifically for verticals. So if we look at pharma, or we look at finance, or we look at retail, they're coming out with some amazing products to cater to these verticals. Fraud, for instance, so these are really important verticals. So we have this really big ecosystem of that. And then not just that, we also have a lot of, we have introduced tools to do low code. So low code, no code, meaning it is for business users to be able to enhance, for example, M365 Copilot. So you can create multiple smaller Copilots, and they are for, users who are used to Excel and doing macros in Excel and stuff like that. So not really coding, but actually building something really quick, and it's possible. And then we have the more heavy users who can actually build experiences. So that is our Azure AI Studio. So talk about that. And finally, for people who are very much into research, we have Quantum. So it's, it's like it spans from everybody who can just use Copilot chat all the way up to Quantum. That is the level of, or the breadth of things that you can get from Microsoft. But other than that, we have a lot of, we have a lot of responsible AI toolkit. There's actually a toolkit which customers can utilize to actually make sure and measure their responsible AI practices. And finally, right now, because it has been a demand from the customer to understand, do I derive business value from my GenAI implementation? So we have launched an open source, it's called Mavia. It's called a business value accelerator. And you actually can calculate business value of the GenAI implementation or whatever you're doing. It's a very cool implement or a toolkit, so to speak, and it's open source. So yeah, that is what Microsoft is doing. I think the first thing, and I've had the pleasure of working with some companies, and some of my solutions have gone live also now that I can save the whole cycle. What we've seen is it starts out very good when the company sets a strategic vision. It's very important. It shouldn't be sitting at one corner in the organization. We're like, let's try it out. It's fine to try it out, but it has to be tied to a business objective. And it starts with the vision, and it starts at the top. So I think there has to be, first of all, a vision and a strategy team who's going to follow through on the vision. Because without these two pieces, it's a lot of people trying tech. And while you can try tech, but you can't really derive business value from it. So these two are very important elements which need to be in place. And after that, actually, what you start doing is like you start setting up, after you've set up the strategy and the vision, here you start saying, what are the business cases? So normally the business, across different units, they are going to come up with business cases. And that is when your strategic unit can actually, and we do this exercise together in Microsoft also with a lot of customers, we try to do this quadrant where we say, what kind of business cases are you getting? Will this fit into the Gen AI context? What can be the quick wins? What will be a longer project? What you should not be doing? So stuff like that. So it's a 4x4 quadrant, which basically says, what's the business value? And what is the ease of implementation? And if you get some quick wins, then you basically say, okay, now I have a budget. Can I go out and buy, depending on the implementation effort, or do I have the skills to build? Because if it's an experience kind of thing, then you need to build it. Or if it's like a first party product and you want to improve productivity, for example, make your developers more productive, you just go buy GitHub Copilot. But if you're like, oh, I want to build the best call center ever and give the best experience possible to my customer, it's an experience you have to build. So, and the decision over here lies how much budget and what are the skills that you have in the organization. Skills are a really important one because skills are very much in demand at the moment. So you need to be aware of the fact that building takes time. So therefore, you have to account for that if you have decided to build. And here, some of the partners are extremely good, like the system integrators, like you have the Accenture, the Deloitte, the Infosys, there are many partners out there in the landscape who can do some exercise together with the customer and figure out, So this is one of the first use cases which I see at a lot of companies. And literally it's named Enterprise GPT when I call it. So what they do is they say company name and they call it GPT. So you pick any company, most of them will call it company name and GPT. So don't get very creative there because, well, it's a nice naming. The second use case, which I found extremely powerful, is the call center automation. So call centers are really ready for disruption. And I'm also going to show a demo of that, of what's possible and the art of possible. And there is a lot which is possible because in real time, you can do transcription in 57 different languages. And not just transcription, but also give a response to that transcription. Meaning, if you're asking a question in real time, they can find all the information about the customer, and actually the agent can give a response. And you can do sentiment analysis together with this at the same time. So imagine all of this in real time, where you don't have to schedule multiple calls where they tell you, oh, I'll get back to you, or I'll schedule a meeting with you, or let me send a mail back to you. So that's a totally different level of customer experience that you can get. Plus, you can also achieve a lot on the call center automation part. So that is the other area which I'm working very heavily with. The third area which I've used, which is very common, is the ticketing system. Most of the companies, they have a ServiceNow and Jira or whatever they've implemented as raising tickets basically. And they want that to be automatic and people to be able to find information really quick, because when the agent is sitting over there and let's say your password is not, or password not working is very simple case, but something is not working, they have to search their knowledge database, right? And to be able to give an answer in real time and really fast is quite tough. And people get very frustrated with that experience. So that is a very, very common use case, the automation of the IT service desk or whatever service desk you will have. The fourth area which I have seen is specifically marketing. Marketing and product teams, they are using GPT a lot. Two types. They use the DALE, meaning for creating the images, and they're using the GPT models basically for the summarization or creating product campaign or creating something for social. Product teams wanting to do like some kind of announcements and stuff like that. That's very, very common. Whether it's communication, marketing, product teams, they're using that very heavily, for content generation. What are the other use cases? So these are some of the common use cases. Yeah, another really important one is information assistant. Literally across every company that I've spoken to, they have documents in either Sitecore or SharePoint. And what they want to do is they want to place a bot on top of this to be able to answer questions when people ask something, because, well, it's very common to do that. And yeah, they can call it policy bot or whatever. So this is very common in HR, finance, whatever, any kind of policy documents or whatever documents you have. So that's called information assistant. With HR specifically, if you want to go, okay, no, these were general use cases. Yeah. So basically, first of all, I think security is built into the solution because Microsoft is hosting the Azure AI model within Microsoft Cloud, and we are bound by the highest security protocols that cloud has to offer. So that is one part. The second thing is all the data and all the traffic which is going in and out of the model is encrypted. So there is we have various levels of encryption that a customer can choose, and it is very good, and it meets all the industry standards for security and compliance, even for the regulated ones. So that being said, the question which I get most often is in terms of compliance, or basically in terms of data, and it's about how accurate is the data. That is the question which I get very often with the AI model, because large language models, they are not 100% accuracy. It's not a mathematical model where you give 2 + 2 and the answer is always a 4. Language models, they have a construct where the accuracy we have seen, even with the best model and the best prompting, it gets to 92% maximum, and this is backed by research. So we have not seen a model go beyond 92% unless fine-tuned. And fine-tuned is not an open source model, right? So it's if you take a regular model and you do the best prompting, 92% is the accuracy. That is the benchmark. So that means that is a standard that you actually need to work with the particular industry that you're working with. If you take finance, they're very much used to 100% accuracy. Or you take pharma, they also want a very high degree of accuracy. But I think the important part is creating a benchmark. And the current benchmark is 92. And one of the major questions that I get is, how do we get to 92%? How do we know we are at 92? And then there Microsoft has some tools actually to benchmark, to actually understand what is the level of accuracy, that is, groundedness, how accurate, or how much of this AI is not making up, how much of this is not a hallucination, but a real answer. So there Microsoft has some tools to understand groundedness, or hallucination. Then coherence, meaning that is actually coherent, it is sounding fluent. In different languages, the accuracy can vary. So it's really important that you understand which languages to use. So Microsoft is doing a lot of work. And as I said, 57 different languages you can do, conversation in, with various degrees of, accuracy over there. So that is one part of it. The other part, what Microsoft is doing in terms of security, is we have created something called content safety. Meaning what a lot of people try to do is they try to jailbreak the model. They'll try to break the behavior of the model. And in order to prevent that from happening, we have put additional layer of security on top of the model, which is called Content Safety Studio. And there you can actually limit hate, sexual, violent, all sorts of content. So that is possible. So, and then after that, we have the third layer. So actually we have 4 layers on which we implement security. The third layer is basically called meta prompting. Meta prompting is where you define the behavior. It will be polite, it will be human-like, it will be, responding in a friendly way. It will never curse, abuse, or learn bad things. And the final layer is on the UX. So you always see on the UI layer, when you're conversing with a co-pilot, it will say, please remember, these are answers. It will always give you a disclaimer. Please remember to recheck these answers. It's a co-pilot, not an autopilot, meaning it always gives you this recommendation. Please have a human in the review, which is really, really important. And that is also what Microsoft is doing in terms of, compliance. These are 4 layers of security that is putting on top of a base model already, with a lot of security features. So yeah, I can go on talking about it. Ethical AI, yeah, and that is what responsible AI basically means. We are looking into 6, quadrants: bias, bias, fairness, transparency, and other things. And Microsoft has actually created, not Microsoft, actually, we have created together with research an open source toolkit, which is called Responsible AI Toolkit. I can also share that in the meeting, that we have on Monday, where you can actually go through some of the industry benchmarks. So how do we benchmark that there's no gender bias? So for that, there is a industry benchmark called Gitbit, and that is something we have incorporated within all our Microsoft products. And that is also something when a customer is building on top of a Microsoft product, they can also use that as a benchmark to see that they are making sure, let's say for gender diversity, that the LLM is not responding in the wrong way. That's just an example of gender diversity. But the same thing we have done for fairness. So there's something called Fair Learn, which is the industry standard again. And within this Responsible AI Toolkit, you can actually find an industry standard for each of these things, whether it is transparency, whether it is fairness. Fair Learn is also very interesting because, for example, it will make sure that the LLM doesn't make a decision which is not fair, where it favors one population over the other. So we are very, very mindful of that particular problem or whatever. Or not problem, but we're very mindful of that particular thing. Let me put it like that. So that way, Microsoft has spent an extensive amount of money to make sure that our models, they are, we have put the best practices for ethical AI, and we have followed all the industry standards that are possible out there, where we are also co-creating some of them. Yeah, and this is very much related back to the question. As I said, let's take fairness first. And as I said, we use the industry standard called Fair Learn, which basically makes sure not favoring one over the other. And then transparency is in terms of, so in terms of transparency, we are working with how we cannot provide how the model is working because it's based on a deep neural network where the outcome is, even unknown to us. But what we could do is we could provide fairness in terms of how it has been trained. And that is how we have, made sure that there are white papers out there, both for GPT 3.5, GPT 4, and any of the models that are coming out there, that people can actually read through research what is going on in this particular model. Of course, we have not put our IP out there, but there's a lot of information from research, which we have provided in white papers, which people can read in terms of transparency. And then it was transparency, fairness, and what was the last one?
Accountability.
Accountability. Yeah. In terms of accountability, Microsoft has provided Microsoft copyright commitment. So, I mean, right now, if we look at large language models, how are they trained? Actually, if you look through a white paper, we can see 74% of the data that we got in training of a LLM, and this is from, I'm talking about one of the LLMs, is web crawl. Meaning we created a crawler, it crawled the web, found a lot of information, came back. Now, information across the web, as you know, there's all sorts of bias, all sorts of stuff built into it, right? So what we said is, and also it's reading of information, whatever is publicly available. So right now, what we have said is, let's say it read a work which had a copyright infringement. Microsoft has put out there that it's called copyright commitment. So meaning Microsoft is liable for any copyright commitment. This is not the lawyer-like word, but basically we are covering any copyright commitments and taking accountability of that, which is not the case in many other models or companies. And I think that is very impressive. Okay, so let's take AI adoption, and we are seeing it in three, uh, in three quadrants. Let me put it like that. So one, the first quadrant is most companies, they try out cases for productivity within their organization. What they want to do is they want to make their employees more productive, and also because they are not aware of the risk and data protection and God knows what not, they're like, let's try out on the employees first. So I've always seen use cases are starting out internally in the organization if it's a fairly decently big organization. The second trend that we see is or I would divide it into three, deployment patterns or horizons. So the first one is the customers always want to try it within their organization. The second one is where they want to try out simple scenarios, call center. They want to try out, customer experience and stuff like that, because customer experience is really ready for disruption. So we have seen companies move into the second quadrant where they are experimenting with customer experience, and some what they are doing is on their existing tools, just like Microsoft, they're embedding AI. So they are adding the capability of a bot, like on top of AI. They're adding Gen AI capability on top of, let's say, a financial advisor. You would always get advice, you could read it, but now you have a bot where you can chat with it. So they're providing a value-added service. That is second quadrant. The third quadrant is when they create an absolutely new product, meaning they're providing an absolutely new product to a new market, which says, okay, you can use Gen AI for that. And here we have typically not seen large companies do that. So because it takes a lot of, a level of maturity, and also you need to take a level of risk, you need to be that much in control of everything to get to the last layer. And that is where the true value happens. So if you look, the first one, you achieve efficiency. The first deployment pattern, you achieve a lot of efficiency, operational efficiency, where people are saying, my workforce got, operationally effective or more productive by 20%. Great. What did you do with the 20%? That's a different thing. But anyway, great. The second step is I added a value added service and I charge, let's take Microsoft 365. We added Copilot. We can charge $30 for it. That is a value added service. This is also something our customers are doing. Fair enough. I improved on customer experience. Again, can be quantified by how many customers are, more customers have you retained or have you gotten new customers, whatever. The third one is where you have a lot of scale ups, not startups, but scale ups who are doing very well. An example of that is Lucinity. They decided to open up a totally new area for fraud detection. Like with the rise of Gen AI, there is a lot of synthetic voices and a lot of fraud. So they decided to, tackle that. And that is a totally new area, which is going to be very much in demand because there is a lot of fraud out there and they are doing extremely well in managing that. Then you have many other smaller companies, scale up specifically, who are doing very, very well in these particular areas where either you have fraud or it's know your customer or it is within the retail segment or whatever. So a lot of niche companies, they are showing up in the third quadrant. This is where you open up a truly new revenue stream. I think with Gen AI, what we are seeing is we are covering all forms of, image, text, video. That's already there. And what we are seeing right now, I don't know if you saw that, Devon, they launched something called Devon, which is the new AI software engineer. So I'm seeing what I anticipate is a rise of a lot of these agents, who can do a lot of work. And right now, what we have seen is we are just thinking about a bot that can fetch information. No, we are very, very close. In fact, we're not close right now. People have already started building on top of it. Like Devon was the one who's basically a autonomous AI software engineer. You give it a task on Upwork, it can find a task on that site and it can actually code and give the response back to you. How cool is that? I still have to test it out. Let me put it like that. But that we have also AutoGen, where there are multiple agents who are working, AI agents working amongst each other and actually giving you result back. So you can actually see it's going from Copilot to autopilot. And I don't think it'll ever be fully autopilot, or maybe it will be. But right now, this is the first trend. We are going to see a lot of the rise of these agents who are going to do this work and deliver the work packet back to us, which is very, very cool because companies are thinking very limited right now in terms of, just developing bots. That's one. The second thing, what I feel where we are going to go is we are looking at, see, there's a lot of large language models, but there's a lot of smaller language models as well. Mistral is one of them. So specifically for companies where data is there, like gold or whatever, uh, they will be building, very specific things on a smaller model, and they will be able to sell that model and become the key player in that particular industry, because there is a rise of a lot of these smaller models, which is also a really, really good trend. The third trend which I see, which is coming up, is also, the AI infrastructure. So right now there was a research paper which was out there where we actually, Microsoft did this research where they actually implemented a large language model on just a 1 bit, just a 1 bit computer. Instead of using the large H100s from NVIDIA, you will see that large language models can easily be deployed on a phone. I mean, that is also, I think very soon in the future, we will be seeing a lot of work towards that. And then, of course, there's a lot of talk about AGI. I don't think we are very far away from it, maybe 5, 6 years. After that, it's really difficult to say where it goes, to be honest, because once we achieve AGI, I really don't know. Let me be honest, but maybe we are not very far away. But AGI is also a very highly debatable term. I don't think the models yet can multitask in the same way as humans and have the same consciousness. That will be quite a leap whenever that happens. And this is the most asked question, and not only from people who are in job. I was recently talking to a group of students, actually 16-year-olds, and they asked that question. And I was like, wait, what? Even 16-year-olds are afraid. So that is something, right? But I think that's really, really important. As a population, as a society, we really have to reskill and reskill employees fast. It's not like they become redundant. We did have, 50, 60, 70 years ago, we were agricultural economies all across the world. And then we changed to industrial economies. And then now is a point in time where reskilling, where we don't have 20, 30 years to reskill, we have very short time to reskill. So please, 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 when you are setting up AI Center of Excellence, make sure your employees are going out for reskilling for two reasons. One, if they don't know what it is capable of, they will never be able to implement it. So what your mind doesn't know, the eyes don't see, they say it like that, right? So if they don't know, they don't know how to bring value to your company. That's really important. And the second thing is, it's really important. It's very easy to say, let's lay off people. And I think as a society, we should, and as a company, we should have some CSR and responsibility towards reskilling, not just the bottom part of the organization, but actually at every level up to board level. So there has to be reskilling at each level, and there have to be programs created very soon and very fast. So I think that should be a part of the strategic initiative, which should come top down from every organization.